experienced today, and thankful for the change of seasons, which remind us how life goes on, various seasons and different occurrences, the weather. We do think of the tremendous loss in California of the wildfires. That seems to be our theme the last few weeks with the hurricanes and now the wildfires, and ever mindful that how weak man is in response to the weather and the conditions like that. But we do pray for your blessings on our meeting tonight. We do remember Ty Livingston's family with the loss of his mother and the adjustments that brings, and may they just find peace these days as they have good memories of their mom, and we're thankful for life. Thank you again as we deliberate and conduct the city's business tonight. For your blessings, we thank you. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 3rd, 2017 be approved as printed.
Second.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Migas?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We do have a proclamation, whereas East Peoria is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas East Peoria, Illinois is a community which encourages citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas East Peoria, Illinois is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas East Peoria, Illinois acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 575 plus extra mile cities in America, and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2017. Now therefore, I, David W. Mingus, Mayor of the City of East Peoria, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2017 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. Certainly, we have many people each day who go the extra mile in East Peoria. We're very thankful for that and look forward to November 1st when perhaps we walk by that door and come back, open it for the person behind us. What other communications?
Your Honor, we have a document from the Illinois Department of Transportation. It's a compliance review, number 66. It was covering receipt and disbursement of motor fuel tax funds by the city for the period January 1, 2012, ending December 31, 2015. So we're going to receive and file that.
Let the record reflect, you just informed us of that. Consent agenda, Mr. Denberg, I'll pass it over to you.
Public comment, Your Honor?
Oh, public comment. Yes, please, forward. Anything on the agenda? Anybody want to speak on the agenda item? Don, got one ahead of you. Come on up, sir. Like directing traffic here. Go right ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Finish. I didn't hear what you said.
Please, your comments. You have 5 minutes. Anything you want to say?
Oh, sure. Well, but that's on an agenda item on the rezoning. Did you want to handle that now?
Yes.
If it's on the agenda, now's the time.
Now's the time for your comments.
Okay, fine.
Take your
My
time.
comments tonight are in regard to the zoning of 2204 Centennial Drive.
Please.
My belief is that the zoning board reacted to an improved concept presented to them by Mr. Hadley, the property owner, that was much less dense than an earlier proposal, and sent it on to your board for consideration. Make no mistake about it, this is a multifamily proposal in an area of R1 and 2 zoning. The condo development to the east is isolated by about 500 feet of conservation ground and frontage, previously dedicated in your master plan as multifamily. Further, this site is labeled in your current master plan as being R1C zoning, large lot, single family. With its current zoning and 150 foot of frontage, this parcel that we're going to be discussing tonight is only one house is permitted, or two home site, were there to be 150 additional feet of city road placed on the property. One or both home sites would have the option, due to hardship, to have a septic system versus a sewer system. This proposal envisions 7 or so lots, or a maximum of 7 duplex units, dependent on the exact number of buildable lots. R3 zoning requires a city street with a 55-foot right-of-way, a 28-foot curb and gutter, roadbed, and 30 feet and 25 feet respectively, front and rear setbacks. Unfortunately, that burns up a lot of meaningful area. Also unfortunate is that I brought you a drawing, but it shows a 60-foot right-of-way, and it's an old exhibit. Here's why this plan does not work. There are severe grades of 5% or more on nearly all of the possible building lot locations. The street expense is not shared by double loading both sides of the street because of site constraints. There's a 75-foot easement that begins approximately 150 feet south of the northwest corner of the property line that must be honored and is reserved for Mr. Williford's access and egress, thereby eliminating those areas from construction. Further, it's unlikely that sound city engineering would allow 2 curb cuts so close together. Mr. Williford's entrance would likely have to be closed and his entrance to the lane accommodated in some other fashion via the public street. Both sewage and storm drainage has not been addressed in the development proposal. This site does not appear to allow for a gravity line to the manhole at the southwest corner of ICC across from Centennial. The lowest point of this property appears to be at the northwest corner at the street near the 660-foot elevation. The invert elevation of the manhole is at 662. How does one get the wastewater to the sewer line without a lift station being built and turned over to the city to maintain? It is a monumental expense that requires high engineering and construction costs over very few units. I would ask that you defer on this matter so that Mr. Hadley might have time to investigate further the economic and engineering feasibility of this undertaking, and that you might have time to look yourselves both at the property and the surrounding residential neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wants to speak on this? Please, come, sir. Welcome.
My name's Charles Ronald Williford. I live on the 9 acres abutting Mr. Hadley's property to the south. And a few years ago, I put in a substantial bridge to make that property accessible and usable. And at that time, I've conformed to the same code that we do have now, zoning. I have a fairly nice home back there if anybody likes to drop back and see my neat bridge, which is 75 foot long and 21 feet wide, interstate beams to build it. Anyway, a while back, I think it doesn't want to cooperate. Thank you. A while back, they talked about putting the 48-unit apartment complex in the land that's on my easement coming to my home. And Mr. Hadley backed out of that for what reason, I'm not sure, and it was never approved to do that, and changed the zoning from the current zoning of basically one nice large house. Anyway, at the moment, I've had some experience in development, 4,000 acre project in Florida, which cost myself and our partners about $760,000 in 2 years of engineering and water management and other kinds of land planning studies to do. It's currently called Hunter's Creek. So I have a little bit of idea of cost. And as I told the other committee on the approval of this property, to make that zoning change, that frankly, the cost, I think, is so prohibitive if anybody ever takes the time to study it, put a pencil to it, that I'm really not concerned about it, because I don't think it'll happen. But in the meantime, they're asking to change the zoning, and it kind of muddies the waters, in my opinion. Anyway, I really would prefer it to stay at the zoning it is, maybe build a couple nice homes in there, cut the property in half so Mr. Hadley can't afford to put it up for sale and actually sell it, because he intended originally to build a home on it, and he said it was too expensive. He was gonna move to Florida and sell the property. Well, they have so much money in it that honestly, it probably won't sell, or if it does, it's gonna be very difficult. I'm not gonna bore you much anymore. I just feel like this is a property that shouldn't be changed simply because it won't work.
Thank you for your comments.
That's what I'd say.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Please, then we'll get you done. Thanks for being patient.
My name is Jim Hadley. I'm the person everyone seems to be talking about here last.
You are.
So, anyway, I appreciate all of their concern about what it will cost me and if it is prohibitive or not. We've already done some preliminary engineering work and we think it is very feasible. I have a realtor involved that is already has 2 of them sold if we so choose to build this. My intent is to build duplexes as a high-end duplex, walkout basements. I want to leave as many trees as I possibly can just because it will be a wooded lot and a wooded duplex. They'll sell more. They'll sell for more. They'll bring more money. I have built over 200 homes in my life. I was a construction superintendent through the union, and I've spent about 40 years in the construction industry. As I appreciate my neighbors and their wisdom as far as what the capabilities of this property is, I can appreciate that they want it to stay the same. I purchased this property from Mr. Eschelbach for $150,000. I had intentions of building a dream home, which would have had to been $1 million house. Well, things have changed since then with the Caterpillar relocations and the prices of homes. They have considerably dropped. So it's not very feasible to put one house on a 6-acre lot. And in 6 acres, I can get easily 7 duplexes, but it may be 5, it may be 4. All I'm asking for is a chance to find out and make sure if it will work. If it won't work, just because it's multifamily zoning doesn't mean if I can't make it happen, no one else will. So it would go to, I would imagine, years and years of mowing it on my, for my own personal use, and nothing would ever happen to that. So all I'm asking for is a chance to try to make this work, and we'll abide by all the city rules, all the regulations, and everything, and every hoop that they make me go through, and that'll all be considered in doing these duplexes. I think it'll bring a big tax roll to the city, which we could all use that. Also, we're not going to try to limit ourselves to senior citizen living, but we're going to make these handicap accessible to where if there is someone decent age and they have to have some kind of an assistance, they can actually roll their wheelchair into these facilities. So I think these will go very well. We already have a set of apartments within the same distance that Walter Eschelbach lives to this. Walter Eschelbach, my closest neighbor, to his west, within 40 feet, he has a major subdivision there. And didn't seem to be an issue back when that was being built, because his house was there before that subdivision. So I don't know why, well, I do know why. It's why not be able to sell a piece of property for $150,000 and then have somebody else mow it for eternity. That would be the best solution for a neighbor to have the money and then prevent any kind of construction done to it. So we're going to take every effort to make it high-end. Our projected cost per duplex is $250,000 per duplex. So I would like to be able to get 7 on there, but I don't know that I'll be able to get it on there. Like I said, all I'm asking for is a chance to try to make it happen.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
very
Mayor,
much.
Mayor, may I ask a couple questions while he's here?
Yes.
Mr. Hadley,
Yes.
can you answer what the first gentleman brought up about the severe grades, the 75-foot easement, and the need for the lift station?
Well, there may or may not need to be a lift station. A lot of the facts that he's addressing are inaccurate. And yes, there is a grade off of the backside, but this lot is a unique lot. It's crowned somewhat, and we're going to be around that edge of that. On the very back side of it, yes, it does have a severe drop-off. And the perimeter of the property is the drainage of the entire Quail Meadows Golf Course. So all the drainage of the golf course is going through this creek that borders my property. So eventually, I would suspect that we're going to have some kind of a holding pond. I have the room down there at the bottom of this. That's already been addressed with our engineers. It's not a problem.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Don, thanks for being patient.
Question I have is on the scheduled bills. I noticed there was multiple entries in water and sewer. Transfer switch maintenance, is that an error, or is there 4 switches?
We have multiple switches.
that were-
Sorry. We have multiple switches. Every single gen set we have has a switch on it. We haven't been keeping those through a normal maintenance process. I don't believe they need to be done every year, but they kind of hit our desk that they haven't been done by our electrician in multiple years. So we decided we needed to get some cleaning done of those as a routine maintenance. But we just did them as a one-time maintenance, and then we'll address it again in a couple of years or a few years.
All right, thank you. Also, I noticed there was multiple insurance. Is that multiple months, or it's in water and sewer? Oh,
Yes, it's multiple time periods that we're charging the various departments.
3 different insurance.
Yes, because it's probably a workman's comp, health insurance,
Okay,
the different, insurances as part of our packages.
all right. Final one that, as I went down through it, kept coming up was Verizon cell phone service. And I looked at all of them and I added them up. Looks like we're paying like $5,500 a month for cell phone service. And I'm assuming it doesn't include stipend, and there's gonna be at least, 20 of those out there, so, that's.
It doesn't
quite a bit.
include stipend, I can
It
tell you that.
does not include stipend. Please remember, we do have a master contract with them that has been negotiated. A lot of those go to things that run the police department, for example. Some of those contracts, it's not just your normal cell phone that I would have carrying around with me either. So some of that's data ports that come through
So,
for our
cell phone
connections for
service
police.
is not the normal cell phone service then?
Yeah, it could be a data port for the fire department. It could be a data port for the police department as well. And they just happen to come in by how many ever spots or services we have.
It just seems like a large amount for cell phone service, but, it would equate out to about 110 phones at the moment.
So,
Cell phone service.
on
We
a,
also, if I didn't interrupt you, but we also had started incurring costs that Tazewell County used to pay for the 911 board. We used to have air cards for the police and fire department. Tazewell County, the board.
the nine, yeah.
Yeah, the 911 board no longer pays for those. We have to pay those, so that's another reason it's taking the amount of money we pay.
So that makes more sense than what you just see here.
It's just unfortunate, it's just how it comes into the bill. It's like, it shows that many services.
When I'm looking at $70,000 a year in cell phone calls,
And we're moving more and more to the mobile office, especially for police and fire, and in Public Works as well, has mobile data terminals in a number of their pieces of equipment. If they're out on site, so they can pull up GIS and know exactly what they're dealing with. So we're moving more to that, so we have real-time data out with the staff that actually use that real-time data.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Charlie, please, or you guys fight over it. Mayor, good to see you.
Mayor, city commissioners, and city staff, I'd like to speak about the zoning request on Centennial Drive. I live in one of the condos right across from Quail Meadow Golf Course, and I do believe the zoning would be adequate and proper for that area. I've walked the property numerous times myself. I would have liked to bought it, but I didn't want to pay that much at my age for the property to try to develop it. But it is ideal. I was glad to see the gentleman mention that they would be walkout basements. It's ideal for that type of development. And it'd be great for that area. We just have duplexes or zero-lot townhouses just 4 or 5 blocks away in Cypress Ridge subdivision. And then, of course, we have the condos that we live in, the 12 units. And I think I can speak for the majority, if not all, of our residents in our condo association that they are in agreement this would be a good asset to the neighborhood. So if you can see your way clear of that, I think it'd be an asset to the city. We need more zero-lot line duplexes and townhouses in the city of East Peoria. East Peoria is sort of landlocked in a sense, east, west, north, south. We have more development to the east than anywhere else in the city. I think we have to make the best use of it that we can. And by doing this, I think that would be proper. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I saw one more person, I think. Charlie. Oh, yeah, Charlie, can't miss you.
Charlie Morgan, East Peoria. After reading today's newspaper, I have some questions. I'm kind of confused. We started out, everybody in the city was going to get 1.5, am I correct? That was the agreement of the council.
1.75.
It went to 1.75. If I remember right, we started at 1.5.
You're accurate.
And a bargaining unit was told they would get 1.75.
Correct.
That was our first mistake. We don't have it. I like to see everybody get a raise. Now, that's enough said on that. My question is, and I hope somebody can answer it, at any time was the police officers offered 1.75? And if they were, when were they offered it and when did they turn it down? Can somebody answer that for me?
Dennis, please.
Charlie, after bargaining seemed to break down, a federal mediator was brought in, and through the federal mediator, the notion of a 1.75 was presented. And the federal mediator's response was there didn't seem to be any interest, so there was no further mediation.
Okay, so they were told they could have 1.75 by the mediator.
I would assume that's what he did, that's what he was asked to
Okay,
do.
because my question was going to be, if they were only offered 1.5, I could see why they went to arbitration.
But to clarify, at the interest arbitration, the city's offer was 1.5, not the 1.75. In other words, upon learning that there was the response being no interest in settling at 1.75, when one goes to interest arbitration, each side presents their position, and at that time, the city backed away from 1.75 and offered 1.5.
Okay, so when they went to arbitration, they knew they were stuck back at 1.5. They weren't.
They knew it when they got to arbitration. They anticipated the 1.75 would be there, and that they would then, at the interest arbitration, the officers would hope to get more than that.
Okay. Yes, you've answered my question, and like I said, I know this is not going to go over well. We should have stayed at 1.5. We are broke. Running in red. We haven't got money to give raises, and that's not a real smart thing for anybody to say this thinking about running for council. But I'm telling you what you already know. We are in deep trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Anybody else? All right, now we'll go to Commissioner Densberger.
Mr. Mayor. There it is. Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a consent agenda consisting of items numbered 1 through 4.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
In which case, Mr. Mayor, I move you that items numbered 1 through 4 listed on the consent agenda be hereby approved and adopted. The items numbered 2 through 4, having been read once by their title, and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker, discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Next, Your Honor, I have ordinance number 4356. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4356, hereto attached, an ordinance authorizing special uses for property located at 300 Walnut Drive in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois. The special use allowing for the construction of an accessory structure greater than 1,250 square feet and having a non-traditional facade be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4356 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Morgan?
Whereas Donna and Keith Craig, the petitioners, have petitioned for special uses to allow for the siding of a garage in a manner inconsistent with limitations imposed by sections 5-6-3A and 5-6-5F of the City Code on property zoned as R1, one-family dwelling district, and located at 300 Walnut Drive, which property is shown and described in Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, which property as so described is hereinafter referred to as the property. And whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special uses, subject to a condition hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, special uses to allow for the siding of a garage on the property in a manner inconsistent with limitations imposed by Section 5-6-3A and 5-6-5F of the City Code are hereby approved. Section 2, the establishment and continuation of the special uses hereby authorized are contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the City Code and the following special condition. 1, the garage located on the property under authority of this ordinance shall be placed substantially in accordance with the site plan submitted by petitioner in support of their request. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing condition or with any provisions of the code, City Code applicable to the property or its use, the City Council may, after providing reasonable notice and an opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special uses hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk, and said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject, shall be construed therewith, excepting as that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance, and in the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern.
Thank you, Morgan. Gentlemen, this property is located at the end of Walnut. It is an approximately 15-acre piece of property adjoined by another 7-acre parcel that is owned by the petitioner as well. This is a structure to be used for RV storage and other large items. It'll be approximately 40 by 64 feet. Part of the floor will be poured concrete, part will be gravel for the storage of these items. It's shielded both by the petitioner's own property and by surrounding wooded area. So it's, I think, pretty well placed, and will make the property of better use for the property owner.
It's a nice quiet area back there.
It is. Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Thank you.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I have the item that several residents spoke about. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4358, hereto attached, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property located at 2204 Centennial Drive in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, changing the zoning from C, Conservation and Residential Estate District, to R3, Two-Family Dwelling District, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4358 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Once again, Morgan.
Whereas the hereinafter described real property located in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, is currently classified under the East Peoria zoning code as C, Conservation and Residential Estate District. Whereas Jim Hadley has proposed an amendment to the zoning map of the city of East Peoria for the purpose of changing the zoning classification of the property to R3, two-family dwelling district. And whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed rezoning. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, the foregoing recitals are hereby adopted and found to be correct. Section 2, the zoning classification of the property as shown and described, Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, is hereby changed from C Conservation and Residential Estate District to R3 Two-Family Dwelling District. Section 3, upon the effective date of this ordinance, the change in zoning classification hereby adopted shall be marked on the official zoning map of the City of East Peoria. Section 4, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk, who is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the manner provided by law. Section 5, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance, and in the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 6, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. Ty, would you care to elaborate on this any further?
Sure. As we've looked at these rezonings before, the rezoning here is contemplating, what could potentially go into this basket. In this case, we're talking about R3, so it's really limited for the most part to duplexes. I think the other thing I'd like to touch upon is that, that we've got other development in the area that this isn't wholly inconsistent with. The comprehensive plan touches upon, it speaks to density of development. And so the development shown potentially in this area doesn't follow a consistent lot line. So you have this kind of combination between a moderate, higher density along with the lower density shading that's shown on the comprehensive plan. So it's one of these areas where it's kind of a blended proposal, but what we've got here is something that would be fairly consistent with the development in the area and wouldn't propose any significant development impacts. I think the other piece here is that, certainly Mr. Eschelbach is very familiar with this property. If there are challenges that are there, that's something that occurs through the development process, and that's something that we review very closely with them, both our inspections team and our zoning team. We'll be looking at that through the process, but that's something certainly the petitioner and the owners will need to take a look at.
As Ty mentions, if this project moves forward, it will be monitored, and as the property owner stated, all codes and requirements will be complied with, and we will monitor it closely to ensure that. I'll simply say that I think the City of East Peoria has a need for a wider variety of housing stock. I think a number of duplexes would be welcome to our city. I think it would provide an essential element that's largely absent right now. There's some additional development going on, as we've talked about, farther out Centennial, that will be large lot, single family, which I welcome as well. But this seems, at least to me, to be an appropriate use of the property.
Other discussion, please.
I'll echo what Commissioner Densberger stated. Just being completely honest, I'm going to support this with caution. I do understand the opposing views and your concerns. Took that into consideration. With the commitment on the city's side that they're going to be watching every step of this process gives me a little comfort in supporting this, so I will support it this evening.
Thank you, sir. Other
Mayor,
comments?
I'm sorry.
Please, go ahead.
I'm going to support this as well. I really do believe that the city does need a wider variety of available homes. I think this is going to be a nice development, very pricey duplexes. It's not ones that I don't believe would lower property values. I think it would enhance our community. And it is a tough decision whenever people would like us to vote no, but I think it's the right thing to do for the community, so I'm going to vote yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Jeffers, please.
Just to, Mr. Mr. Livingston, you've said that all the codes and everything as far as the city requirements would be met. I just want to ask one question about steep slope. In this case, so for the record, that's public, that's not an issue here, that's not going to be a problem, that obviously the city would be a watchdog over that.
Yes, the development here is going to be contingent upon, how they interface with those slopes, and our slope zone requirements don't say you cannot build there. It says that if you do build in areas where there's sensitivity, that they're going to have to follow additional heightened requirements.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a look at that, and I would presume that the development is largely going to try to stay away from those areas and steer clear.
I just wanted that stated publicly. Also, in making a decision about this, and the zoning board had to go through the same, they made a recommendation for it as well. 4-2, I believe, was their recommendation on this one. There is the rights, you say, or the neighbors that live there in the community, as well as the property owner for how he develops his property that he's bought for and paid for. And so, we have our rules and regulations to make sure things are done properly as we agree to them. And I will support this as a vote's taken, but I think it's a good opportunity to display working together and having a good development for the good of the city, and for the neighbors as well as the property owner here. And I think we deserve to give them, the property owner, with their credentials and so forth, and us working with them, a chance to do their dream here.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
And my final item, Your Honor. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4357 hereto attached, an ordinance authorizing a special use for property located at 1301 Highview Road in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois. A special use allowing for the construction of an accessory structure of 250 square feet with a non-traditional facade, be read at length by the clerk, and the said ordinance number 4357 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Once again, Morgan.
Whereas Edward Com, the petitioner, has petitioned for a special use to allow for the signing of a garage in a manner inconsistent with limitations imposed by Section 5-6-5F of the City Code on property zoned as R1 One-Family Dwelling District and located at 1301 Highview Road, which property is shown and described at Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, which property as so described is hereinafter referred to as the property. Whereas after hearing pursuant to duly published notice, the East Peoria Zoning Board of Appeals has recommended approval of the proposed special use subject to conditions hereinafter set forth. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, the special use to allow for the signing of a garage on the property in a manner inconsistent with the limitations imposed by Section 5-6-5F of the City Code is hereby approved. Section 2, the establishment and continuation of the special use hereby authorized is contingent upon continual compliance with all applicable provisions of the City Code and the following special conditions. 1, petitioner shall establish the special use authorized by this ordinance, including the improvements hereinafter prescribed in accordance with the site plan prepared by the petitioner and approved by the Director of Planning and Community Development. 2, petitioner shall install a privacy fence having a height of not less than 6 feet enclosing that portion of the property used for the shed along the frontage parallel to Highview Road within the next year. Upon the violation of or failure to comply with the foregoing conditions or with any provisions of City Code applicable to the property or its use, the City Council may, after providing reasonable notice and an opportunity for a hearing, terminate the special use hereby approved. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk. Said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future and in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance, and in the event of such a conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. Gentlemen, this petitioner is requesting to build a shed to store lawnmower and other such equipment on his property. He will be required and has agreed to construct a 6-foot privacy fence that would screen the shed from Highview Road. The shed will conform to the nature of other structures within the neighborhood. And anything else, Ty?
I'll just mention that the sizing here, we're dealing with kind of two different buildings tonight. The previous agenda item was a pretty sizable 1,250 square foot. This one is 250. What code speaks to is if you're greater than 150 square feet and you're not in conformance with the primary structure's construction, then the special use piece is available to come through and certainly provides the city the opportunity to ensure that, where there's opportunities to screen it and that sort of thing, that it's can be done, but this will be essentially a metal shed. But we're not talking about a very sizable building. 250 square feet is pretty small.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have at this time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Decker?
Nothing right now, Mayor.
Commissioner Jeffers?
I have one item tonight, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1718-068, hereto attached, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of East Peoria and the Policemen's Benevolent Labor Committee for a 3-year term commencing on May 1st, 2016, and terminating on April 30th, 2019, be approved, and that this Resolution Number 1718-068 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker?
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. There's been comments made already concerning this proposed labor agreement. Looking at the calendar, we've been over 17 months without a contract, which that is not uncommon. Is not always uncommon with these type of negotiations. Of course, police are not in a position to strike. That's why it can go on. The labor negotiations can go on. Anyway, so we've had our negotiations, and I believe even the last contract and our legal man, Mr. Triggs, 3 years ago, we also went to arbitration. That's correct.
Yes, sir, we did.
And the result of that one, did we prevail on that one or did we lose that one?
We prevailed.
And, to say essentially that sometimes we have been successful in arbitration, sometimes we have not. Both sides have an agreed to arbitrator, the umpire for negotiations. It's much like a review of a baseball play, and the umpires make a call on the field. It's not quite the same thing, but we send it off to New York, and they make their determination based on what they see is going on here, side A and side B. We, as a city council, in general, we had a plan, or we had been involved. Mr. Triggs was our negotiator in this contract, and we were kept advised as the progress of it over the last year and a half nearly. And so we agreed to go with the arbitration, and that was our way to resolve this impasse that we had. Now, it's a matter of record, yes, in arbitration we are at 1.5 and they were at 2+. And so the arbitrator has to make an either-or decision. He can't split the middle. Now, how he uses or he or she uses their judgment, I may disagree with it. And, apparently they're looking just at the percentage increase, not what the policemen make in comparison to everybody else around here, but they apparently in this case looked at just the percentage. If you look at what other communities have been paying, Peoria most recently, I believe, were 2% plus for their police contract. I believe that is true. So for all the different reasons, the arbitrator came down on this agreement, in his view, to say this is it. And while it is not our position as a group to go with that, that's what we've had. And so this is just one part of the contract. The rest of the contract we had agreement on. I will say that the wage hike differences, I don't know what the difference is exactly on paper. Maybe Mr. Eder could tell us the difference between what they got and what we proposed over the 3 years. We will retroactively pay back to May of 16. but it'll cost us several thousand more dollars over the next total of 3-year life of this contract. So we're aware of that, and it's the way it went. And again, we won this 3 years ago, and here we are. And the thing about it, we have another contract in less than 2 years to go at again. And so I don't disagree that, yes, the city is wanting to get the best deal possible. We have a cash need here, among many other things, but that is it. And we are not in a position to impose a final contract on anybody. That's not the way the system works. So I may not like it, but that is what we were given. And 3 years ago, we were successful. This time, we were not. I'll pass to the others for their comments.
Other comments, please?
Mayor, it's always a shame when the bargaining unit and an employer goes to arbitration. That's a shame, because when you allow someone else to make the decision for you, that's not the way it should be. But that's the way it is in some cases. Commissioner Jeffers was correct. The police department cannot strike, and they kind of give up that right to strike, and binding arbitration is what lays instead of striking. They can have somebody make a decision, so therefore you move forward. So we'd never have to worry about our police officers going on strike, and obviously that's a good thing. I don't know, I think that the arbitrator made a decision here, so I don't really know much that we could do. Dennis, I mean, if this for some reason did not pass tonight, what's the recourse after that?
There really isn't any.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I thought it was, and so therefore I am going to vote yes.
Your Honor, the comments I'm about to make, please, I want no one to construe that I am in any way not supportive of the men and women of our police force. They're a professional unit. They do a good job. They work in an environment today where through society and the media, it's an extremely tough job. No one can deny that, and they have my full support. However, as we went through this negotiation, other bargaining units, we shared with them the economic condition and issues of the city. We were able to reach amicable agreements. I agree, Mr. Morgan, it would have been nice to do better than 175, but when you're negotiating, you arrive at something both parties are less than happy with. I guess that's what a good negotiation is. However, as we negotiated with the police officers, as Commissioner Jeffers said, this is the second consecutive contract we have gone to binding arbitration on. We don't seem to be able to reach an amicable agreement with the police bargaining unit. I will just say that one of the features of this agreement is that after 3 years, a police officer is what's called full base, meaning they get full salary in their third year on the job. Every other bargaining unit has agreed to steps, and that's out to 7 years before other bargaining units employees hit full base. When we went to arbitration, in the previous contract, salaries were compared to 5 comparable cities, those being East Moline, Morton, Pekin, Ottawa, and Galesburg. The city did prevail in that, and even with that finding, the top salary, I'm not talking about the lower end, but the top salary was 22% above those comparable cities. We prevailed in that arbitration. We went to arbitration this time, and frankly, as I read the arbiter's decision, I have to say I was truly disappointed because he seemed to discount the facts, at least in my opinion. He bypassed the record of the city's financial position. He looked at the comparable cities, what other bargaining units within the city have gotten, and he chose to go with the union's proposal. I will just say that, on the in the first year of employment, an East Peoria police officer makes less than at these other 5 communities. We did, through negotiation, offer to remedy that, and the union chose not to go that way. That's their right. With this arbiter's decision, at the end of the contract, the top earners will earn $84,403 without overtime. Their total compensation package will be in the neighborhood of $150,000. We have a professional police department. They deserve to be well paid, but those figures will be almost 22% above the 5 comparable cities. I find it regrettable that we're not able to reach a more amicable agreement with the police department. I hope that they, as we go through the next budget process, that they're listening closely, because as Mr. Morgan points out, this city has some real financial issues. We're not alone. Our neighbors across the river and many municipalities have many of the same issues. The state has the same issues. But this is contracts such as this are ones that we simply cannot afford. And I find the whole thing pretty regrettable. And quite frankly, I find I guess my main issue is actually with the arbiter, because I think he discounted virtually every point the city made and simply chose to award the higher amount. So with that, I will be opposing the contract. It's going to be implemented, but I will oppose it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Cole.
Yeah, Mr. Densberger is a little more professional in his delivery of his message than I probably will be. And here's why. About 3 or 4 months ago, the president of the police union reached out to me after learning that I wouldn't support the 1.5%. So let's go back, and I'm going to do a little history lesson with Mr. Morgan, since you brought it up. I negotiated the contract with the local 1498, the the International Association of Firefighters. Okay? You are correct in stating the mindset back at that time was to offer 1.5% increases. When I sat down with these folks and brought to the table the discussion of total compensation, the financial challenges the city faced, they listened. They were willing to sit down and take a look at everything and bargained in good faith. So, is what evolved out of that to go to the 175? That wasn't given to them. They negotiated that. And by doing that, they moved their steps. So you heard Commissioner Densberger talk about the wage scale. So they moved their base from 3-year step, 4-year full base, to 6-year step, 7-year full base. That way it allowed the city, under our current financial situation, including total compensation that they're already receiving, because we can sit here tonight and everyone wants to just talk about the wage increase. There's a thing called total compensation. So in other words, there's a whole pie. Basically, is what these folks are looking at is their slice. And how much I appreciate the fact that the firefighters were willing to look at the whole pie, which they did, allowed the city to be placed in a better position. However, when I sat down, and it's kind of a sad disappointment to me that no one's here tonight, so I could look them in the face again, no different than I did the previous 2 meetings I had with them, and share my thoughts. And it's very simply this: we can't afford what you're asking, period. End of story. So you can come and you can talk about your slice, but in this seat, we got to figure out how to pay for the whole pie. And going back and asking taxpayers for more taxes so I can line somebody's pocket, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. Listen, I have family members today that are in law enforcement. I have publicly and will continue to defend the fact that this city has historically, still does, probably always will, pay above average wages to public safety officials. I don't apologize for that. We live in a very safe community. The problem I have, though, it's got to be within reason. And in my personal opinion, from day one, what they were asking was never within reason. Because, as Commissioner Densberger pointed out, the arbitrator decided to disregard all the financial aspects that the city is facing. Sadly enough, in my humble opinion, I tried to openly discuss that with those folks. I looked them in the eye. I was brutally honest with them. Had no intentions of, that wasn't their problem. Well, guess what? It is. It's all of our problem. It's time to take ownership. Moving forward, we have to think outside the box and do a lot of things different in this city. So that lends itself to what Commissioner Jeffers stated, which was basically this award, if you will, was based upon wage percentage increases. Go back and look at the state statute and the guidelines that this arbitrator was supposed to rule or make his ruling based on. It specifically states in there wages and total compensation. Nowhere in there does it say you can base it off increases that other departments, other municipalities are given. So for that reason alone, I sought to appeal this decision. Unfortunately, I'm one of 5, and I'm the only one that wanted to go down that road. Everyone else can speak for themselves. So prior to learning from the city attorney what that process would entail, I received a phone call from the police union because they had been told that I was seeking to appeal it. So that in itself is disappointing. Not sure how they found that out. Really don't care. The conversation remained the same. Here's why. I have no problem facing anybody, looking them in the eye and telling them what I think. And quite honestly, this places the city in a bad situation. You can sit there and say it's a few $1,000s. How do I sit there and look at Mrs. Smith, who's lived on the same street for 20 years, and we just had a budget that 2 commissioners wouldn't support because we're only spending $340,000 in street maintenance? How do I justify to her that I see no problem giving someone that's already making $100,000 a year a couple extra $1,000? I can't. So whether they want to look at it as sour grapes or not, I feel the arbitrator overstepped their boundaries. I was in full support to seek an appeal. There's differences of opinion on whether that would be successful. I understand there's legal costs. But at the end of the day, the city's already incurred legal costs because we use the city attorney to negotiate these contracts. Sorry, nothing personal, but the pay for peace motto has worn itself out with me. We can't afford it. So at the end of the day, I represent the taxpayers, and I'm going to stand by my position that I could not support giving them 1.5% or 1.75% unless they were willing to move the steps of their wages in line with the other bargaining units. They had no interest in doing that. Commissioner Densberger talked about wages. He gave you specifics. Hate to say it, but they're accurate. So we have 47 members of the police department. Total compensation, it averages out to about $144,700 apiece. That's a lot of money, folks. So what's enough? I support public safety. I support paying them above average wages to ensure the safety of our citizens. But we got to be able to afford it. If we can't afford it, we're not going to have it. That's where it's headed. So it's time to take ownership, all parties, in my humble opinion, and do things different. And 1.75% of someone making $50,000 is different than 1.75% of someone making $150,000. And for some reason, everyone wants to keep saying, well, that person got $175,000. They said it to me. Why was I willing to give the fire department $175,000? I said because they bargained in good faith. They took a look at total compensation, the financial status of the city, and they were willing to move their steps. You don't do that, I can't support giving you the same thing. So I will not be supporting this in case you didn't figure that out.
I have a little difference of opinion. Number one, I think we should have given a firm offer of 1.75. We never did do that, honestly. It was tentative at best. Secondly, I think we got off on the wrong foot, and it went to the arbitration, and we lost. Now, the fire department contract is good, but it cost us $41,000 in fitness. It cost us $500 per lieutenant. It cost us the 1.75, and we've added a position of over $150,000, probably $175,000 in a deputy chief. So,
No, he's making about
but
he's making less than
but when you look at
assistant
benefits
chief.
also, it goes up about 50% more than salary.
So the
So
fitness thing
I
is
do, I've had
incentivized.
you've had your say.
Sure.
I think it's a bit hypocritical to really say the one contract is one way and we don't honor the other one, and I just disagree. So we're in a situation now where I think that I've heard the police believe that we don't like them. There's hardship between us. I don't think anybody in this council ever intended that.
That's not true, and I had no problem telling
I'm
them
not
to
done
their
yet.
face.
You need a moment to control yourself? So,
You call me a hypocrite.
I said I think it's hypocritical.
Well, who are you referring to?
If it fits.
Disappointed.
Where was I at? I was at the fact that I don't think anybody believes our police department's bad. I think we have the best police department. I think there's 105 law enforcement officers that lost their lives so far in 2017. We expect an awful lot of these people, and I really want them to know, as far as a council, we do honor them and we do respect them. Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
No.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
No.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
3 ayes and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
That's all, Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Call.
Mr. Mayor, I have one item this evening. Resolution number 1718-066. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1718-066, hereto attached a resolution approving the purchase and installation of an electronic warning siren from Reagan Communications in the amount of $38,165 be approved, and that this resolution number 1718-066 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Mr. Decker.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. I'm going to turn this over to the chief, and he's going to explain the details of this resolution. But I will say in advance, I've always been a proponent of getting multiple bids. The reason why there is only one is because Reagan is the sole distributor for the brand of sirens that we have here in the city. Chief?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, over the past 2 years, we didn't have a maintenance or replacement schedule for our ESDA sirens, and I've actually developed that, and it's on not on the complete city website, it's on the internal website for us so we can track. I've repaired 8 of our 12 sirens in the last 2 years. And then we were looking at coverage. I sat down with Neil and I said, look, I want to look at where our sirens are and what our needs are in the future. And from looking at the map, we noticed that there was a deficit. They're really supposed to be on a perfect day, no wind, they're circular. So we would have some overlap. Actually, with the wind always coming the way it does, it's more of a crescent shape. So I noticed that we have a deficit at Colon, Illinois, and also, more interestingly, where Shady Lane is, where the tornado actually touched down, they have no coverage right now either. So the sirens won't reach because they always go in this direction instead of that way. So we looked at it. I had the engine companies go up there on 3 different occasions, and Colon, Illinois, 22nd Street, you cannot hear the sirens. That won't reach. The closest one is Chute School. So I had Neil go up there and look at it, and then after we were going to originally do an 8-cell or a 6-cell, we decided to do a 10 because of the dog park. It wouldn't even reach the dog park with the smaller one we have. So if people are outside, they wouldn't have any advance warning. So we've looked at that. He went through and looked at it. This will actually, looking at it, should almost reach to Prairie View. So between that siren and the one at Chute School, we should have coverage of that entire area. He didn't realize there was so much housing development in that area since the last siren was installed. I waited until this year to do it. We have around $160,000 in ESDA. The funds can only be used for ESDA. And this is a big chunk of money. I don't like spending that out of that, but I really don't have a choice. We need to have that coverage there. So I appreciate the support, and hopefully we still have enough time to get this put in before cold weather hits and the ground's too hard to put it in. So, and again, approaching that, Mr. Reagan maintains and does all of our sirens. Every one of them is a Wayland siren. He's installed all of them. He's the one that puts them and connects them to dispatch where they can access them. So if I would have got another bid, I would have had to go to Mr. Reagan anyway and have him hook it up to our system. And like I said, he covers from 136 all the way up to Route I-80. He is the Central Illinois distributor for those sirens, and that's what we have. So that's why I decided to go with him, because I think it would be more cost prohibitive not to do that. So.
And, just a quick point, when that tornado struck a few years back here, actually it came in from that area over where we're talking. So I think it's very prudent that, we take a hard look at this, and I appreciate all the due diligence the chief's done on this. It's something we've been pretty passionate about since he's been in the seat, so appreciate that.
Other discussion?
Just one more second. I'd like to thank Ty and Dennis for the help with this. Ty was very crucial. It took us 4 or 5 months to get Ameren corralled to where we could actually get out there and see if they had any issues. And Dennis was help with the right-of-way of where it would go. So I appreciate their help also, and Glenn for the maps. So.
Just a
Go ahead.
question. Chief, what's the lead time once we approve this and get it going? Is it the lead time to get the actual unit that's driving this?
It's about 8 weeks. He thinks he can expedite it. So once he knows he has approval, he'll go ahead and purchase the unit and get it on the way, and then wait for us to pay him.
He could actually, I guess he's going to have its own dedicated pole for it.
Correct.
I mean, I'm thinking he could go ahead weather-wise and just get that in.
Well, I asked him about that, and actually, he will be subcontracting that pole to somebody else, and an Ameren will be coming in. He said it's easier to put it up. This pole is 55 feet in the air.
Yeah.
So he said what they do is they'll lay it on the ground. Everything would be hooked up, put on the ground.
Before they put the pole. Make it
Exactly.
much easier, safer, and cheaper.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's why we have to wait. We have to wait for the unit to be attached to the pole, then
Yeah.
have it put in the ground, and then have Ameren come out and hook the pole up, so.
I know working with Ameren, always, they're pretty good, but sometimes I
Yeah.
know Public Works, we've had to wait in some things, and some of our development, we've been getting in line, but for this, I would think they would give us, advance to go quickly on this type of
Yeah,
project.
they were very helpful. I met with Nolan, I apologize, I can't remember his last name, but he was like, no problem, go ahead and go forward with it. He was very supportive. They just told us, give them 2 or 3 days leeway, and then they'll come out and hook us up, because we've already got existing lines there from an abandoned light pole that's not used anymore. So we're within their parameters, had no issues with it. So once we get the go-ahead to do this, it shouldn't take, the longest part is going to be waiting for the siren to get in before we can install it, so.
Other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, this was a good catch by Chief Service. I've worked emergency work in many communities around here, part-time and full-time basis. Obviously, I've been East Peoria a long time, but the city of East Peoria with Mayor Dabelair and Mayor Mingus a long time ago, I remember Jim Bavard talking about the need to expand our tornado sirens and to make the city of East Peoria a much safer place. Back then, we had very poor coverage, and it's because of the foresight of the council back then. You live in a very safe community for tornadoes, a very good warning system. But one thing Chief Service recognized, that the development in that area, my mom lives in that area, and I had never thought of it. There was no coverage. So when he told me about this, I was so happy to hear it. I mean, I think it's an area that usually people don't think much about it. You hear the sirens during the tests on the first Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock. After that, you kind of forget about them. and I'm really thankful you got that and anxious to support it.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Comments from the audience? Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on a non-agenda item? Come forward. Charlie?
Several meetings ago, I was advised that if we had any ideas or inputs on how to save some money, that you'd be glad to hear it. Well, I submitted some, I never heard anything. Once again, I don't know, you're gonna cause me to crawl in my shell, Mr. Eager. You're giving me a complex because you don't talk to me after you say they're going to. So I have some questions. Maybe you can answer them. The marina. We have no business being in the marina business. We have lost money for 20 years. Thank you. I submitted this and you got it. So maybe you can answer some questions. Dredging is one of the biggest problems out there. We now own that facility. We need to get out from under it. We do not need to be in the marina business. We can never recover the losses we have had in the last 20 years. The father and the young man are doing a good job. I will give them that. Very good job. They can't generate enough money in my lifetime or yours to see us profitable. We've had non-payment of slips, people leaving their junk boats. We get a few $100s out of the parts, and we continue to lose money. Until something is changed with the depth of the water, it's not going to be a success. We can't dredge all the time, we don't. And you know, the highest percentage of the people enjoying that marina don't live in our city. That's why they like it, because they're enjoying it on our dime. Nothing against them if they can get away with it, but it is time we make a decision on that marina. I'm sorry that you didn't get back with me so I could sit down and talk with you, but unfortunately, it appears that's not going to happen. This is the third time. Okay. Dennis, thank you for the explanation on the negotiations. I always appreciate hearing from you because you tell it like it is, and that's what I like. I have a different outlook. Same to you, Commissioner Call. I guess I didn't realize what they had given up. I still think, and I'm not real popular, but this is what I tell city employees, you ought to be glad you got 1.5. Because if that 1.5 saves one job in every department in this city, it's worth it. And I can point to this gentleman right over here, former Mayor Dobelaire, who saw all of this in the 80s. That's where we are now if something doesn't happen. People are not going to have their jobs. And that's what I tell the employees. It's not that we wouldn't like to see you get a raise. We'd like to see everybody keep working and our jobs being done. So thank you for your time. It's going to be interesting, see where it goes.
Thank you. Don?
A while back, I remember something was said about purchasing Route Smart. Have we done that? And if we have we implemented it?
We have purchased Route Smart. We have done 3/4 of the stuff that we need to do to implement that. It's rather lengthy process that we had to go through with that, so we are in the process of doing that, and I know the consultant is coming back out, and I just don't know when. We've got a couple more things. We were waiting on some technology to come in to be installed in the actual garbage trucks that will make that,
How
so
long
we
do
can
you
actually
think it'll be
implement.
before you get it?
It's
implemented?
within the next 2 or 3 weeks, yes. It's coming
So
up.
a short period of time.
It's a short period of time. One thing we've learned that is our current routes are fairly efficient. There's not a lot of changes going to be made due to the routes, and a lot of it has to do with the ravines and the structure of our city. If you start changing a lot of stuff, it adds a lot of time to the routes. But garbage is only one of the things we're looking at that technology with. That's the reason why it was brought in the first place. But it has verified that our routes are actually really efficient.
Okay. How, I was wondering how gaming and sales tax revenue has been. Is it looking to be flat, down, up?
Both are down.
What are we projecting through the end of the year?
Off the top of my head, Don, I don't have that with me.
So we're
Sales tax, always like retailers, Black Friday and Christmas shopping, tells the story. So we won't know on sales tax until that point, but the Paradise does continue to have its challenges.
still dropping off, so.
And that's, just so you know, the Paradise, that those numbers are publicly available on the state's website.
Yeah, and I just noticed that we made $1.5 million payment to the pension funds, and that made me think about that, so.
And periodically, we do make those payments as
Yeah.
required.
Yeah.
They're not they're not monthly, so they're rather large when we do make them.
Right, that just made me think about it, so. The other thing that I thought about, though, is to start the evening off, Commissioner Jeffers, he brought up, I hope everybody's enjoying this wonderful fall weather. And I thought, man, it would really be great to enjoy the weather. But when I open my door, I get lots of smoke. It's burning season. Once again, even on my way down here, coming past the Paradise, I-74 was just in a big haze. The smoke is just unbelievable. They didn't wait. The 15th, they lit the fires and they burned. It's been 5 years I've been talking about this. I'm going to talk about it every year that I stand up here that nothing gets done. Somewhere, we need to do something about all the smoke in the city. We need to either implement yard waste pickup and hope that people just don't burn as much, or we need to put a burning ban in place. Once again, we talk about enjoying the fall, which everybody wants to, doing the right thing, maybe implementing some way to slow this down. But there are lots of other people besides me out there that pay a price for that smoke every time you walk out of your house. I now have, and I didn't think the other night when I walked out and I got hit with the smoke, I now have to think about every time I walk out of my house, do I wear a mask? What is it like out there? Do I look and see, oh yeah, we can see the cloud of smoke. The neighbor 2 houses down from me has a pile right there on the corner of the street. Now they're gonna light that up one day, go to work, it's gonna burn and it's gonna smolder for a day and a half. And the smoke's gonna roll. So everybody needs to really think about this. We've been talking about it 5 years. It's
And
about
I'm
time
going to give
we
you the
did
same
something.
answer that I have for the last 2.5, which is I have no problem banning open burning as long as we offer an alternative. Until that time, I mean, you have to give the citizens an alternative. I share your concerns. I absolutely despise it. I've stated that publicly, and I've never wavered from that. So hopefully in the future, who knows? How long down the road? Have no idea, but hopefully that's something the city can implement, and then we do away with that problem.
What you're saying is neighbors, I agree with you. It has to be attended, and it's only on till dusk. So if
Right.
they're doing that, you call, we will come out and we'll put it out, and we can issue a fine if it's reoccurring, but.
Right, you put it out last year, it smoldered. So I
Thank-
appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Bob?
I was going to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Here comes Bob with the follow-up.
Well, that's something too that, I don't know, anybody have asthma or know somebody who's got asthma?
Yeah.
Do you know how frightening that is when you're actually having an attack? Got a friend who was just in the hospital for a week. Now, I don't know that it was brought on by burning, by open burning, but, here, we need to think about a lot of things, but one of the things we need to think about is the health of the people in the city. And, even making a call for an emergency to the 911, Mayor, like you said before, gosh, we got some of the best 911 people out there, but I don't want to call them. I don't want to have to call them. I don't want.
To report something, Bob? To report something? You don't want to make a report, you're saying?
I'm not sure where you're going with that. I'm rambling too much.
No. Why wouldn't you call 911?
No, I'm saying I don't want to do it because I don't want to be in that situation, was where I was going.
I understand.
I don't want to be calling for Diane.
Gotcha. Okay.
She's now pre-asthmatic and is starting to have some of these problems like Don's saying. And
I understand.
I have gone to really 2 Tazewell County Board meetings, and in their 2018 plan, they're starting to, and of course that is going to stretch out for 20 years, but one of the things they're talking about is yard waste. And we need to try and be in there and be supportive and say, we need to do this. This is too much of a problem for too many people. So I did want to stand with Don on that, just from the medical side and the dangers of it. My other comment, I got 2. We do have glass recycling the 11th of November, so we're looking forward to that. Always a good event. My other one, and I hate to be a busybody or whatever, one of the reasons I love to be part of the city is because people work together and they're patient, and goodness knows I've been patient on some of the demands that I've tried to make over the years. But I want my city to run that way too, and let's step back and take a breath and say, okay, how can I make this work better by doing something to kind of reduce the problem or the stress level or something. I understand it's difficult, but that's what East Peoria is. We work together and do the best we can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else? Comments from the council, Commissioner Decker.
I have a few things, Mayor. Let's get this out of the way first. Mr. Mayor, I move that a closed meeting or session of the City Council be held at the conclusion of this regular meeting to discuss the following matter or matters according to exceptions provided in the Opens Meetings Act and specified as follows. Section 2C6, the setting of a price for a sale or lease of property owned by a public body. And Section 2C11, pending litigation or litigation which is probable or imminent.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
3 other quick things, Mayor. First of all, Route Smart, I did want to mention that, something about it. I was talking with Jeff just a couple weeks ago about when that's going to be implemented because of the way our city is laid out and the trucks having to back out of some of the streets. They're being narrow and difficult to turn around and things. That's kind of what slowed down the process of getting it implemented. It's a lot of data they put in, and so a lot of things they have to put out to it. But I would like to say our routes are being seen as being very efficient. One thing I would like the public to consider is being willing to change potentially. If we give the entire city to Route Smart and say, hey, what's the best way to do garbage? You know how people get really close to the things that they're used to. So if they're used to having, I'm used to having garbage day on Wednesday. I know when I get home from the council meetings, it's when I put out stuff. Well, it would be difficult to change. I'm not saying that's going to be suggested or tried, but I just would like the public to be willing if that were to come up. Next thing I want to mention is North Rustic. If anybody would like to visualize or drive on a new process that we're trying in the city of East Peoria for our streets, I'm very happy with it. Commissioner Jeffers lives there. It's something that we spoke about it quite a bit last year about trying this process. It is the normal process which everyone hates. It's that scarification process where they pick up the surface and put it back down, and then they put rocks all over it. But what this does then, it puts a layer on top of it. It's GSB or something like that. And it adds about 10, a little over that percent to the cost. But the surface is great. And so if anybody would like to see some of the new things that we're trying in East Peoria, North Rustic and Circle Drive, I think maybe Midway might be in there as well. I'm really happy with it. So I think in the future, that's what we're going to be looking at, because I think it's going to be a much more durable surface and it will last longer. Finally, the most important thing, Moms Who Care. For any of you that doesn't know what that is, it's an organization that's in our schools in East Peoria. It's in the high schools where it started, and it's in District 86 as well. But as you all know, East Peoria has a pretty high poverty rate. So therefore, we have kids coming to our schools that sometimes don't have the clothes they need, pencils, pens, deodorant, shampoo. What these a few moms in our district started was this. They bought things out of their own pockets. Finally, they started getting money coming in from different sources, but they made it available to kids that need it. So once a month, they do it on a certain day of the week, and it's done by freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, depending on which week. But the kids are allowed to go there, walk through the little store, I guess, and pick whatever they need. They're not ridiculed, they're not looked down upon. It's in a private location, so they don't have to, no one sees who's going there or what. But I used to talk with Dr. Nagel about this quite a bit, and the differences that he claims, or he talks about it making in kids' lives. He was able to tell me about a couple kids that he believed would not have continued to go to high school if not for this service and them getting the things they need because of this. I say all that to say this. I've been involved with Moms Who Care for a few years. Commissioner Call's on the Human Relations Commission with me as well. And a few years ago, the mayor suggested they used to hold a run in East Peoria. Well, we brought that run back, and it is for the purpose of raising money for Moms Who Care. That run is going to be on the 28th of October. Whether you run or not, doesn't matter. It's a $25 donation. It's a 5K run or a 1 mile walk. You can come and walk, come and just hang out or donate money, that's fine. But this organization, as I told you, it started in the high school and is now in, I want to say 9 or 11, I can't remember, different locations throughout central Illinois, in all these different schools. It is growing, and every opportunity I get to talk about it, I say that one of these days this thing will be nationwide, and it will be because it started in East Peoria. So really proud of it. If there's one thing you may want to consider to donate to, please consider that. It's on October 28th. You can go to the Chamber's website, Facebook, you can go to my Facebook page, you can go to Human Relations Commission Facebook page, or just give me a call and I'll get you hooked up with it.
Thank you. Commissioner Densberger.
I'll just very briefly, Your Honor, I know that several members of the council have shared cost-saving ideas, reorganization or efficiency ideas with Mr. Eder for him to take a look at and share with department heads. I'm certain that process is going on, but that work is being done and it must be done. So.
Right. Mr. Jeffers.
Nothing changes.
Mr. Call.
Yeah, just in spirit of Bob pointing out the contentious meeting, if you will. I want to publicly apologize to the mayor, although I didn't appreciate being labeled hypocritical. It gave me no right to step on his time or your comments.
I don't think you're.
It's fine. I just want to apologize. I did take exception to be labeled hypocritical, so I'm going to tell you exactly why the firefighters were offered what they were for 1.75 versus why I wouldn't support the police union, which I stated to their face. So what I shared tonight is nothing different than the conversations I had on 2 separate occasions with the police union. So, put things in perspective. Firefighters. A firefighter in their first year of employment with the city of East Peoria, base wage is $37,310. First year patrolman, $54,496. So, once again, 1% of 1.75 of this doesn't equate to 1.7, so don't use the argument with me, it's simple math. Fire department, you go from $37,310 to 7 year before you hit a full base of $77,578. Police department, you go from $54,496 to your third year of $80,026. I don't think that's hypocritical for me to not use those as comparison and be willing to support giving one over the other. So, the mayor mentioned Fitness Day. So let's talk about that. What is a Fitness Day that was offered to the fire department? It's an incentive. When I sat back and I took a look at the health cost, and when they first approached me about this idea, quite honestly, I was opposed to it. But the more I got with the command staff, the more I took a look at the numbers. Why not offer something? We pay a lot of money for health benefits in the city for our employees. Why not offer an incentive for these guys to get healthy? And I know there's a number of people in the fire department that have taken advantage of that. So we get it on the backside. We have lower health care costs. I have no problem offering that. It's an incentive. Not everybody gets it. It's earned. Trying to think of what else was brought up. Oh, lieutenants. So lieutenants in the fire department get $500 additional a year. This is something that Chief Darren, Chief Services predecessor, actually brought to the table in negotiations before I was even on this council. They didn't come to an agreement on the contract. So when I took a look at that, when you look at the responsibilities of the lieutenant, we have a thing in the city called compaction, and it's a major problem. Everyone wants to ignore it. I'm not interested in ignoring it any longer. Brought up a deputy chief position that was recently created. Fact of the matter is, we sit here today, he makes less than the rank he came from. That's wrong. For 1 year, I brought this to the forefront through the city administrator, through city council, and here we sit, nothing's done on it. And you know, obviously, what was said here tonight speaks volumes to me. Now I know why I got nowhere. So, I guess we do nothing to change the way we do business. I don't know. But I'm not hypocritical. Matter of fact, I'm a man of integrity. I have no problem looking anybody in the eyes and telling them the truth. If it hurts their feelings, there's nothing I can do about it. At the end of the day, I don't answer to an individual or a group. I answer to the people that elected me to do the job and be fiscally conservative and look out for the tax dollars. I intend to keep doing that, by the way. On a high note, I want to end on a high note. I don't want to be negative. I greatly appreciate 4 individuals out of Public Works that did an absolutely tremendous job above and beyond. Mrs. Beardeman, who's a 5th grade teacher at Boland School, had some of her students looking for information on wastewater treatment and water treatment. So we reached out to Public Works on their behalf, and these 4 individuals took time out of their busy schedules to sit down with a bunch of 5th graders, and they did a tremendous job with a lot of patience. So I'd like to personally thank Lynn White, John Cowell, Dan Bridgewater, and Clint Williams. And Dennis, they did a tremendous job, and I tell you, quite honestly, is what I shared with the mayor prior to the meeting. They did such a good job. I wish citizens could sit through what they sat through and learn what they did, and then you see everything that doesn't come to the forefront that we don't typically talk about every day, but how important it is. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. My last comments are that It's frustrating because we all want to give to our employees as much as we can, and it's true. We're limited. We're even going to be more limited in the future. We kind of made a pact that we were going to begin hard negotiations the next contract round. We go through these whole rounds. I voted for everything on the fire department's list, including the assistant chief or the deputy chief. I support it wholeheartedly. I support looking at his salary. What I find hypocritical, and I didn't mean that, I more or less mean us as a council, is our spirit of negotiation in this situation. I didn't feel that we had the same spirit of negotiation with the police that we did with the other bargaining units. And some of that might be on them, but I think some of it's on us too. When I hear, and I know that it's tough, but when I hear about how they aren't bargaining exactly in good faith and all these different things, I think we could have come a little bit more. That deal that they got from the arbitrator is going to cost us by fiscal year 20, $57,000 more dollars. $57,000 more dollars. And I think sometimes when we hit heads, all we do is lose. And what's hypocritical to me is that we don't look and negotiate, and as you said, Bob, come with the free spirit and the good intentions and all those different things. We get locked in. I think the council got locked in here as well. This is going to cost us a lot of money. Now, on the other side of that, I don't disagree with anybody here as far as we don't have money in the future. It's going to be even tougher. It's a tough balance. So I respect Commissioner Call. I respect all the commissioners. Sometimes we disagree. Motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn until Tuesday evening, November 7th, 2017 at 6 p.m.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.